Hey, it's Kristen, and today we're talking to the cast and creatives behind the new sci-fi horror film Possessor, which follows an assassin who uses brain implant technology to take over people's bodies. Hope you enjoy our conversation. Your film Possessor is very unique. I was wondering where the inspiration for this story came from.
I was going through a bit of a strange period, I guess, where a lot was in flux for me. This is kind of a trivial personal story, but it is kind of where it came from. Um, and I was, I guess, because so much was changing so quickly, having trouble seeing myself in my own life in a certain way. I was feeling like I was sitting up into someone else's life in the morning and having to scramble to construct some kind of character who would function in that context. And so I wanted to write a story about a character who may or may not be an imposter in their own life, as a way of talking about how we construct characters and narrative as a way of functioning as human beings. Um, so the seed for the film was really in those kind of more dramatic personal scenes, the relationship and family scenes, and then the thrillery sci-fi stuff kind of built out from there.
So now, what was it like, the process of casting this film?
In some ways, a great process. I mean, it took a while just because it's an independent film, and there was a sort of period of financing and figuring out the casting. But when it came together, it was excellent because Chris and Andrea were really uh, my dream team for it. They're both incredible actors, and I feel like I got very, very lucky being able to work with them.
Like, what made you want to join this cast?
Brandon, really. Brandon's script, his first film, Antiviral, um, just the incredibly imaginative person that he is. And I pretty much straight away knew I wanted to do it. I knew Chris was doing it. That was a huge draw. And then this incredible cast formed sort of around us. Jennifer Jason Leigh. That was an exquisite joy to get to watch her and work with her.
I know Andrea was like first on Brandon's mind, as mine, like to come and do it. And once Andrea signed on, it made it even more exciting. And then we had time to like meet up and talk about the script, and for a while before we actually started shooting it. That was nice. There was like this kind of ease in terms of there wasn't this huge like time crunch. I mean, essentially there's a time crunch once you're shooting, but at least we had some time before we actually started shooting to kind of have it all gestate and kind of bleed into our subconscious. So it was kind of like a perfect little marriage of a lot of different things.
Now, this film, I feel like you have a lot of really interesting recurring themes and scenes, and I was wondering what the significance of those are, and if you could maybe explain some of the themes a little bit for us.
The constructing of identity, the ways that we build characters and narratives, the sort of fiction that we use to make up who we are, is part of it. I was interested in surveillance issues. The Snowden leaks happened while I was writing, and so obviously there's a more jokey, obvious reference to that, which is the Zoo Through Corporation, where they're looking through people's webcams, just completely horribly violating their privacy for the most mundane reason, which is to see what kind of curtains they bought and to sort of data mine their purchases. But also, I think the possessions can sort of stand in for as a metaphor for those kinds of privacy violations. And instead of someone turning on your webcam or your microphone, they are actually in your body, looking out through your eyes and experiencing the intimate details of your life through your nerves. Or equally terrifying, someone who's in your life is actually a complete outsider, and there you are confessing your darkest secrets to them, thinking that you know them, and it's actually someone else. That was part of it, and then also, I guess, just the future of corporations, as entities. Interestingly, in the early days of the corporation, some corporations like the Dutch East India Company had their own armies and ruled land. I think they ruled Indonesia for centuries. And so this idea of the power of the corporation beginning to feel a bit more like state power again, and in this future world, return to almost corporations as Cold War entities, maybe.
The fun of kind of having playing a character that has that kind of duality of two people is inherently and forever will be interesting. And the theme of the fragility of the mind, I think it was at the forefront, and how that is obviously the science fiction nature of one inhabiting one's body is not a real thing, but the breakdown of one's psyche is a very real thing, and how fragile and that is for a lot of people. And that is what that was the thing I could relate to the most, or try to relate to the character.
He's really extraordinary in terms of being able to create a world that is in many ways familiar, but also picks apart the fragility of the one that we already inhabit. And by setting this film in a past that is an alternate past, it allows us to see a lot of things we identify with, but also to question them in a different way and look at them from a different perspective. So certainly the themes of identity and technology and also I suppose the self. The whole film is the protagonist of the film is completely out of touch with herself.
Now, what was it like for you two working together? I mean, a lot of the film you're separated, but there are some really interesting, very trippy scenes where you kind of sort of come together as one. And what was that like?
Well, yeah, it's funny that you say, what was it like working together, apart from the times you were separate? Because actually the answer to what was it like working together was like very separate. we were together mostly and in conversation outside of the scenes, which is really fascinating and unusual and brilliant. But then, I don't know about you, Chris, but I felt so reliant on Brandon in those moments where he was trying to create something visually that was a merging of the two psyches, or he was trying to create something visually, and often he would just sort of pause one of us and then replace one with the other. And in those moments, we almost had to just completely rely on whatever his vision was, because we had no idea how that was going to manifest visually, or even perhaps where we were psychologically in that moment, because maybe he hadn't even made the decision of where the lead character was psychologically in that moment yet, and that would happen in the cutting room, so very reliant on Brandon, who was an excellent source of all things.
Any scenes that me and Andrea were actually doing together were actually very trippy. I don't think we had a normal scene. I think they were all like very dreamlike and kind of, what felt almost drug induced.
You bring up these interesting items, the pipe, the butterfly, and we kind of see both of these characters going through moments where they're trying to figure out, like, am I myself now? Am I someone else? I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about those items as well.
Sure. I mean, both of those items, first of all, are items from my life.
Wow.
They very closely resemble the actual objects, but they aren't. They were for the film. I mean, I guess part of it came from an interest in the ways that also the physical things that we surround ourselves with are part of who we are. And so if you lose yourself, I imagined in this device, you would lose your sense of your relationship with these intimate physical things, which are kind of constant reminders of who you are, and in a sense, physical manifestations of your memories.
Very interesting. This seems like a very, very personal project. Make sure to check out Possessor, which is out now. Subscribe if you like these interviews, and you can check out more right over here. See ya.